So we are now entering round 4. All power counters essentially have been put back, and in some cases we've adjusted them because like Captain America, now that he's in the pale zone, gets an extra counter, so he's actually at 9. Essentially we're at the midpoint of the game. So now halfway through the game, we essentially have 2 models that are more injured than others. So Colossus is close to the middle of the pale zone, which then he gets into the critical red zone after that, where Captain America is just on the edge of it. Cyclops is the only model so far that is completely fresh, does not have any damage to his endurance. And then Iron Man is really sort of in the middle of the fresh zone. So not too much worse off than Cyclops, but not completely fresh. And so I have drawn the die from the bag, and it is Avengers have the initiative, so they get to go first. And I think what we're going to do is start with Iron Man. So I'll be back with what Iron Man is doing in a moment. So Iron Man used 2 tokens, and he's deciding to get out of running distance of Colossus, and going to try to use his range attacks to help the cause. Now, one of the things that what Iron Man is going to use is he's going to use his micro missiles, which have explosive 1, which could endanger Captain America, because within 1 inch it could potentially hit him if it hits Colossus. But we'll go into that later as to why Iron Man's going to risk it. But it is an energy attack, but it's a flame attack, and it has homing. So it doesn't require line of sight. It literally, within 10 inches, can shoot around things, and it doesn't even need to be seen. You don't have to be able to see the target. And so he's going to fire these at Colossus as the target. It's going to be essentially 2 damage for its normal damage, plus the explosive potential on Captain America. Now, Colossus in response is going to spend 1 token to raise his energy defense up to from 17 to 19. The other thing is, because this is actually a flame-based attack, Colossus has a resistance to flame of 1. So whatever damage happens, it will end up being 1 less, because Colossus has this. Now Iron Man is going to spend 3 tokens and 1 to overload the attack, giving him 1 extra die to try to hit Colossus. So he's needing to get a 20, because that 17 becomes a 19 because of the defensive stance, combat stance, and then, or in this case, because it's energy, it's actually called like an evasive maneuver, but it's the same thing. It's a defensive sort of posture. And Iron Man will now try to beat that. Now, Iron Man's attack is still +1 because he's in the gray zone of the endurance bar. So that means an attack of 7. So an attack of 7, needing to get a 20, is going to put him at 13. Yep. So on 3 dice. I've been doing my best to roll here. Okay. So we got a 4, a 3, and a 1. So ultimate fail. The missiles don't even hit Colossus. And because they don't hit the Colossus, they actually don't potentially explode on Captain America. Now, that is actually a really cool ability that Iron Man has there. He rolled abysmally. Even with the homing missile, like it wasn't able to hit him. But for whatever reason, it is a once per turn. This is a blue attack, so he won't be able to use this until next turn. Iron Man now has 1 token left. He is going to save it for defense. And next up will be the X-Men. And I think what we will do is have Cyclops. I'm constantly getting the 2 C's for them mixed up as I'm talking, but Cyclops is going to get into the action, and we'll be right back. So Cyclops is going to try to put a barrage of green actions. He has a attack that I've used called the Focus Beam. It costs 2. It has a potential damage of 2. Overloading can pierce if you wanted, or you can use the traditional extra die. A tactic that Cyclops is going to do is just try to, through weight of attacks, put a volley of fire at Captain America to try to clip him. I think that, with characters that like Captain America that have a lot of ability to save, but also have to conserve their power tokens, like they haven't gone yet. One of the tactics that I think could potentially work, not that I'm extremely experienced with this game because it is still fairly new, but a general wargaming tactic, and what I think that could help Cyclops here is to try to barrage him with his quick, fast visor beams. And so he's going to do 3 attacks potentially by not moving. He's going to shoot at at Captain America, and he's going to overload his first focus beam and then potentially shoot 2 others, so 3 attacks on Captain America. So the target, the attack is focus beam, the target is Captain America. He is going to overload it. Then Captain America, in response, is allowed to do 1 reaction per attack. But he is also allowed to do a defensive posture, which in the rulebook it's clear that you can do that in addition. It's not considered an evasive action. So 1 token will be spent to increase Captain America's energy defense from 15 to 17, and then another one will be to do his once per round shield block. I know in some of the comments on the videos so far, a lot of people were quite, concerned about being overpowered with the shield block, but one of the things maybe I didn't emphasize when saying it, I may have mentioned it, but it is a blue ability, so it's once per round. So this will be the last time it can be used. Now, that means that Captain America actually has a energy defense of 17, with Cyclops having +1 attack by being in the gray zone. That puts his attack at 7. We do know that you need above the defense value. So for a 7 to exceed a 17, we need an 11. So first on 3 dice. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So the first shot does go through. One thing that I believe makes the game smoother and more accurate, which I've not done and I'm going to try to do, is the shield block really should be done first. That roll to Captain America. It doesn't change the result because either way the attack is lost, but it would hit Captain America, but we do have to determine whether that shield block cancels it. And so in order to do the shield block, it is an agility roll for Captain America. He gets to we know that he gets to try it twice. And so essentially I'm just going to use this 7 here just to have a dice handy. But we know that that's a hit if it goes through. So he needs a 9 or less. So in the case of an attribute roll, it is the number or less as opposed to exceeding. So 9 or less. And so Captain America actually rolls above it. He rolls, looks like a 14. And so we're going to roll one more time. He rolls a 7. So this first overloaded attack by Cyclops, which would have hit, and like I said, I think for the purposes of the game, this shield block should be rolled first, cancels that first attack by Cyclops. Now, Captain America can't do it again. And part of the strategy that Cyclops is going to use here is he's going to shoot 2 more times at Captain America. These ones can't be shield blocked with throwing his shield like that. Okay, so now on 2 dice, Captain America will actually need an 11. Still very possible. So first one is a 9. It's a miss. Second one is a 10. Also a miss. So Captain America does not get hit by all three of them. So that actually leaves Cyclops without any tokens. Now I chose, since Iron Man is already gone and Captain America could come after Cyclops, it is possible that he could do things to him, but he went all out to try to nail him, and it just didn't happen. Although, if you looked at the dice, there were a couple that were very close there, and definitely could have. He even had the potential to put him into the red zone if 2 out of the 3 of those happened, and it was close. Now next we will be what Cyclops is going to try to do his Master Tactician, which Master Tactician is a tribute roll to allow his Colossus to go next and to skip the random, not random, but the alternating actions per character. And so it's a willpower roll, which is an attribute roll. So Cyclops' willpower is 8, and so he needs 8 or less to allow Colossus to go. And he rolls 2 8s. Critical fail. So unfortunately, it will be Captain America's turn, and he is ready for revenge. Be right back. So Captain America elects to do a double movement away from Colossus. Now, typically the way the movement's structured is he can spend 1 token to move 4 inches and 2 tokens to move 7 inches. Now, those are his movement options. Most characters can only move among their movement numbers. So if they're a flyer, they may even have 3 numbers, but in this case they have the option of 4, 7, 1 token, or 2. Because Captain America has the agile skill, it allows him to do a whole nother movement action. In this case, he spends an extra token to actually go not 4 or 7, but an additional 4 on top of that 7 with the 2 tokens that he would normally spend. He's actually positioned himself exactly 8 inches away, which he needs to actually use his shield bounce on Colossus. So he's now spent 3 tokens. He's already spent tokens for his reaction with the shield blocker earlier, and also his evasiveness from the energy attacks of Cyclops. So he's going to spend all 4 of his last tokens to allow himself to have an extra die to hit Colossus with this shield bounce, which is a once per turn ability. And it's an active ability, it's not a reactive one. Now, Colossus has a defense of 19 now, because normally his physical defense is 20, and this is a physical attack. He has -1 because he's in the pale zone. So in order to exceed his 19, Captain America's attack currently is 7, so he's actually going to need a 13 on 3 dice. So we rolled double 7s. So first we have to determine whether we hit, and that's a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, but it's also critical, because any doubles is a critical. And so that means that there is actually not 2 damage, which is the normal damage of the attack, but 3 damage on Colossus. That puts Colossus at the end of the pale zone, on the edge of the red zone. He's not quite there yet, but Captain America is all out of actions, and so is Iron Man, and so he won't be getting any more damage this turn. So he effectively is still in the same position as the way he started this turn, but he is closer into getting into the red zone, which we'll talk about when we have a character get there. So now we'll come back and see what Colossus does with this. So the Avengers thought that they were going to get away from Colossus, and Captain America did, but Iron Man didn't go far enough. I think he thought that Captain America being busy up there, he would just get into the best position behind the car with Cyclops, but it allowed him to still be in range of a run from Colossus. So Colossus ran towards him, spending 2 tokens, 1 movement action, as I explained in the last turn. And he's going to do 2 green attacks. Both of them are called the Osmium Punch and have potential for 2 damage and cost 2. Pretty effective and have a chance for a critical for 3. And so Iron Man does not have, he already spent to be on an energy defense. He's not going to spend any further to raise anything, but he does have an armor value of 14, but it's 15 as a flyer against a grounded opponent. And so Colossus is punching Iron Man because he's flying. His physical defense is slightly higher already. What Iron Man's defense would be 15. Colossus's attack is 6. To exceed 15 means Colossus needs to get a 16, which means a 10 or higher. It's going to be on 2 dice. He's not overloading. He's choosing to do 2 attacks on 2 8-sided dice of 10 or higher. First attack, 9. So I'm rolling 1 point down for the X-Men quite a bit, so you X-Men fans, don't hate me too much. It's not intentional, but there's another one coming. In this case, it's a 3. I'll move it in here. So 2 misses by Colossus, unfortunately. So, that is the end of round 4, and now we'll be going into round 5. And before we do have 2 characters in the pale zone, both Captain America and Colossus. They each have to make a stamina roll in order to not collapse and not get knocked out. Now it is sort of like going unconscious for a bit due to your injuries. You can get out of it, but it's just sort of a reflection of their injuries and the chance that they get incapacitated due to their injuries. So Captain America actually has a chance on 2 rolls. He has a stamina of 9 or less. And so he actually rolls a 10. So 1 more roll. He rolls an 8. And so he does make it. Now, Colossus has an 11, but only gets 1 roll, so 11 or less. And he rolls an 8, and so does not fall unconscious. It is a bit of a random element. And so, yeah, they're still good, and they're still not towards the end of their endurance bar. So we'll be back in round 5.